now Bryan Suits filling in for Meghan McCain. Thanks to Nikki Schwab for putting up with me there from the Daily Mail. And we'll see if we can check in with her on Friday. Another thing that came out today, and there's an agenda to it, because Jake Tapper from CNN tweeted it out, some other people, NASA tweeted it out, and it's this thing that 2016 was the hottest year on record. And they're talking about this because the incoming or the potential EPA chairman was in front of the Senate, and then they asked the idiot senator from California, Kamala Harris, asked the incoming CIA director about global warming, and this whole thing. And there has been a shift in the query from the global warming cult, which now calls itself the climate change people, and they've shifted the verbiage. It used to be you have to believe in global warming. Well, because there has been such fluctuation in a lot of the measurements, they shifted it to climate change. Well, I'll be honest with you. I don't know any conservative who doesn't believe that the climate is always changing, because we know that the climate is always changing. It always has. It always will. The Earth is not in a vacuum. It's not in state. Well, literally, it's in a vacuum. It's in space. But the climate of the Earth is not in stasis. We know this from studying the climate, that it has been warmer in the past. So what that thing today about 2016 being the warmest year on record is a bit deceptive, because during the medieval warming period, they were growing wine grapes in Great Britain. When Chaucer was writing Canterbury Tales, they were growing wine grapes in Great Britain. But no one had a thermometer. What about Greenland? We hear about, the Greenland ice cap is receding. It's thickening in the middle, but it's receding on the edges. You know what it's revealing as it recedes back? Farms. In medieval times, they were farming in Greenland. It was warmer in the past. We know this because there are also scientific proxies, everything from tree rings to captured bubbles, where we can get the gas chemistry of the atmosphere. We know this. More on this a little later, but when we come back, from the beginning, Bradley Manning was a traitor, not a whistleblower, not a leaker. I'll tell you why right after this on America.
Broadcasting to a national audience yearning for a voice that speaks with common sense. Across the nation, this is America Now with Meghan McCain.
It is America Now, hour number 2. Bryan Suits filling in for Meghan McCain. She'll be back tomorrow, then I'll be here on Inauguration Day, which I have to admit to a bit of embarrassment here. It's noon Eastern, so it's 9 a.m. on the West Coast that there's the peaceful transference of power that we're so proud of here in the United States. And here's a quick little fun fact, and I know I say this because absolutely not 1 second of coverage has been on what I'm about to tell you in the American media in the past 3 weeks. But 7 minutes ago, a deadline was reached. There's a country in Africa called Gambia. There was an election a couple of months ago. The president refused to recognize the results of the election. He lost. And the neighboring nation of Senegal said that if he didn't leave office by midnight, which was 7 minutes ago Pacific time, they were going to invade. So we'll update you on that. But that's a real deal. But speaking of updating, let's check in with Bauer and find out what is trending in America now.
That is some ultimatum. If you're not out, we're invading. That's what's going to happen. Wow. Bryan, President-elect Donald Trump's nominee to head the Department of Education, Betsy DeVos, faced I would say bumpy. Would bumpy sound good to you? Bumpy confirmation hearing?
Probably the most contentious that I've seen in the whole hootenanny. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, that were Republican senators praising her as a much-needed reformer, while Democrats suggested that she was unqualified for the job. DeVos, a Michigan billionaire, has lobbied for expanding charter schools and providing taxpayer-funded vouchers for private and religious schools, but she has never worked with public schools. This after Betsy DeVos, the Republican mega donor who President-elect Donald Trump picked to head the Department of Education, suggested during her contentious confirmation hearing that schools could keep guns in case of grizzly bears. Grizzly bears.
Oh, I thought you were going to play the audio.
I don't have any. Do I have audio for that?
No, we don't. You don't see it here on the country. Yeah, she was talking about some town like Lander, Wyoming or something. And she said they could keep guns on the property, like, for instance, in case of grizzly bears. I wish she had just gone full Second Amendment and said it's a local issue, and if a local district feels that a qualified teacher or principal can carry a concealed weapon, then that's their call. I'm not going to make that call from Washington, D.C. That would have been a slam dunk, but instead she says, well, they have grizzly bears, and they can smell
the grizzly bear thing. The grizzly bear thing throws it off.
They smell the menstruations.
Now it makes the rest of us go, who would build a school in the middle of a grizzly bear habitat? Like, there's those kinds of questions that come up.
You say grizzly bear, they say Wyoming. I had black bears come on to my high school in high school. It wasn't because they were smelling menstruations. It was because we built the high school in the middle of the bear house. Is why in Port Angeles, Washington.
That is challenging. I mean, kids love petting zoos, but that is challenging.
I'm not kidding. Our principal, Mr. King, he would fire warning shots to get the bears off the football practice field. At our junior high, here's the comedy. It was Roosevelt Junior High. Our mascot was the teddy bear. And we would have bears on the practice field, and he would blast a shotgun and scare the bears off.
Wow.
So I'll defend her.
By the way, one of the least threatening high school mascots you could have is a teddy bear, right? Am I right?
You'd think until you played us.
Oh! You guys tore it up.
You know what? Quick tangent. One of the best high school mascots in America is in the town where the mental hospital for the state of Idaho is. Orofino, Idaho. The high school mascot is the Maniacs.
Oh, that is brilliant.
How sensitive is that? The Maniacs.
That is brilliant. And nobody wants to play the Maniacs.
No,
nobody wants to say anything about playing the Maniacs.
No, they might rub gravel in their hair, or they might beat your ass in football. They're the Maniacs.
Oh, good. That is fantastic. That is top notch. Now listen, Edward Snowden's Russian residency has been extended, so we don't have to welcome him with open arms anytime soon, or subpoenas anytime soon. If the Kremlin's relationship with the United States significantly thaws under President Trump, Edward Snowden is guaranteed another 2 years residency in Russia. The Guardian reported Wednesday that Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman wrote on Facebook that Snowden's right to stay in the country had been extended by a couple of years. That's the quote. By a couple of years, disrupting claims that the National Security Agency whistleblower could be used as a bargaining chip in Putin-Trump negotiations. Do you think that's still possible?
No, the guy had better pray that relations don't get any better, because if they do get any better, he's going to have an untimely bus versus Snowden accident, or he's going to drink the wrong kind of tea. He will not return to the United States alive. I mean, you heard it from me first. Edward Snowden, even though he may want to return to the U.S., he will not return to the U.S. unless it's feet first.
And that do you think that happens like the moment he steps off property, that kind of thing happens, or somewhere in between?
The WikiLeaks world was shocked this morning to hear that Edward Snowden, known whistleblower, was found dead after being hit by a bus in Moscow. Authorities are investigating the circumstances.
Yeah, I can kind of see that happening, to be honest with you. That makes a lot of sense. Now, it's fake news pretty much where you would expect it. Entertainment Tonight reported Tuesday that the National Football League, the NFL, told Super Bowl halftime singer Lady Gaga that she could not, quote, say anything or bring anything up about the election or mention Donald Trump, end of quote, during her performance. Now, the NFL is saying that the story was not true and that the singer was given no kind of instructions, apparently, other than don't sing on the roof of the stadium, because that's what she wants to do at this point. There was no instructions. Quote, it's false. Natalie Ravitz, the senior vice president of communications for the NFL, told CNN, this is unsourced nonsense from people trying to stir up a controversy where there is none.
Know your audience.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, would you do it at NASCAR?
The Super Bowl, for all intents and purposes, is in the heart of Trump country in Houston, Texas. That is about the heart as you can get it. The only thing that I knew is that she wanted to try to perform on the roof of the stadium. That was the only thing that I had seen. I didn't know anything about the politics portion of this.
Well, I'll tell you what. She does not run in the circles that elected Trump. She runs in the circles that are telling her to make a brave stance and to say something, do a wink or a hand gesture or something. And that is why you got Trump, because of that kind of thing. Of the people who don't know their audience. This is the Super Bowl, and she'll do something, because how can she deny the temptation to do something, anything, darn it.
Yeah, and maybe even if this is indeed fake entertainment, or fake news rather, as the case may be, I believe we are seeing something. This just sets up the precedent for something political is going to happen no matter what. As if you weren't concerned about it before or even thought it would happen before, it's going to happen now.
Somebody planted this to have a maximum halftime audience and get people to either hold off on dropping a deuce till the third quarter or whatever, but they're doing it for maximum audience. And that's what you get when you don't book Bruno Mars every single year.
You are not kidding. This is like Bill O'Reilly saying, at some point in time during the interview with Trump, one of us will light our nipples on fire and then see what happens. That's what,
he did not, did he?
No, but I was just saying, it would be akin to that. And that's what's trending in America now, Brian.
Wow, hook, line, meat, mouth. All right, thank you very much. We'll come back in a second. Yeah, the whistleblowing leaker and other myths about Chelsea Manning. And then let me remind you about a video that was released called Collateral Murder when we come back. Make no mistake about it, Bradley Manning harmed U.S. national security. And regardless about whether he did or not, he violated rules that are hard and fast about handling classified materials, period. And we'll get into it right after this, because I'm pretty steamed about it. It's Bryan Suits filling in for Meghan McCain. You've got America Now. Welcome back to America Now. Bryan Suits filling in for Meghan McCain. My home base is KFI in Los Angeles, from the host of The Dark Secret Place, which is America's premier show on national security matters. Wars in the future, wars in the past, etc. And the one that possibly kicked off 19 minutes ago, if you're listening to us live. And it's 7:19 on the East Coast. It's 12:19 tomorrow morning in Gambia, where the president there refused to accept an outcome of an election over 2 months ago where he lost. And his neighboring country, Senegal, gave him a deadline, which is respect the winner of the election or we will invade at midnight of the 18th of January, 2017. And it's midnight, so we'll see. But see, that's what happens when you don't have a peaceful transition of power. Now, even though it looks like a bunch of kids in the sandbox happening right now with this strike on Trump's inauguration, and it really is because as you recall, go back to 2008, and you had Mitch McConnell and others saying that they would oppose Obama with all the means that they had. And that was before, he was even in office. So maybe they made the rules at that point, but they attended the inauguration because you're watching the office of the President of the United States, not the individual. But regardless, I'm not going to tell anyone how to throw a poopy. I have my own ways. But what happened today, the commutation of Chelsea Manning's I'm doing it. Bradley Manning's sentence was pure politics. And first of all, make no mistake about it. Had he not been in a victim class as a transgendered person, it probably wouldn't have happened. There's a lot of things about Bradley Manning that you never hear about that make him far less sympathetic when they come out, but they just haven't come out, and it comes from his court-martial. But what he did was in... what was I saying here? 2006? 2005? 2006. He deployed with his military intelligence battalion to Iraq. And they were assigned the mission at the Joint Force headquarters, the main headquarters at the airport at Camp North Victory, as it's called. And it's tedious work. You're processing data. When you're an intelligence analyst in the military or the CIA, you're not out there in a trench coat getting it yourself. You're just moving digits around, and you're formatting PowerPoint slides and crap like that. It's pretty soul-killing work when you're just an E4, when you're new in the military. And Bradley Manning had a martyr complex when he enlisted in the military. A brilliant guy. He tested off the scale in the ASVAB, the military test. And so he got his wish to go into military intelligence. When he got to military intelligence, it was not what he thought it was. Turns out there's a rank structure. And in many places in the military, you will be outranked by somebody dumber than you.